Satoshi Nakamoto, the creator of Bitcoin, went to great lengths to conceal their identity. Many articles have been written about who Satoshi is, but after more than 10 years, we still do not know who this person is. I doubt Satoshi could have predicted all of the advances in infrastructure, tech, and politics of Bitcoin, and yet somehow they understood the significance of the project. Using anonymous email services and Tor, they registered the domain bitcoin.org, releasing the Bitcoin white paper, writing the code, and then fostering an early community of users, all while being very mindful about how much information they revealed about themselves. A big point of Bitcoin is to not have one person in control of the project and to not have one person guiding the community. But I'm not alone in wishing that Satoshi was still around to give an opinion on the space. It's also worth thinking about because Satoshi owns, likely, about 1 million Bitcoin. To get a sense of what that's worth, go take a look at the price of Bitcoin and add 6 zeros to it. Crazy to think about. And with that amount of money, Satoshi could clearly bring a lot more change to the world. Over the years, different candidates have come and gone, but the hottest candidate of today, the most popular, is Dr. Adam Back, a British cryptographer and privacy advocate. Today we'll talk about Adam and the theory that he is Satoshi Nakamoto. I can't talk about Adam without mentioning this video, Unmasking Satoshi, by a YouTuber, Barely Sociable. It's got so many views, and all over the internet, people usually cite this video as evidence that Adam is Satoshi. The editing is great audio, but I really think it's very bad. I'm not trying to be a hater. It has good stuff showing that Adam could be Satoshi, but that stuff is at the end of the video. The first 20 minutes are spent trying to convince the viewer that Adam and his company Blockstream have taken over Bitcoin. It's sad that people who maybe are introduced to Bitcoin for the first time by this video are told a lie, that one man, one company is running the show, when the reality is much more exciting. The reality is Bitcoin is an invention where no person, no organization, and not even a country can control it. I have no idea why the video makes this argument. If Barely Sociable has an agenda, if somebody else did the research, but there's really no excuse. I was tempted to break down the video line by line, but I can save us all a lot of time. All right, what is more likely? That Bitcoin users all around the world, speaking different languages, motivated by different things, different levels of education, were all tricked by Team Adam, or that the users considered the pros and cons of any upgrades to Bitcoin and went with the path that they think is best. What is more likely? You think the 1,833 nodes in Germany care what Adam Back says? You think the great American mining company cares about what Adam Back says? You think Bitcoin's most prolific coder, Peter Woolley, cares about what Adam Back says? No. It's a stupid argument. The video ends with him saying, "I find this all very disappointing." Yeah, so do I. Your video sucks.
is Andy Milanakis, and we are talking about Bitcoin and Bitcoin news. Welcome.
Imagine the year 2008. There is a financial crisis impacting the world. The first Iron Man movie comes out, and Satoshi Nakamoto is privately sharing an early draft of Bitcoin with certain people online. Some notable things about this early draft: it's not even called Bitcoin yet. It's just called electronic cash. And Satoshi was actually using the phrase time chain instead of blockchain. The accepted theory is that the Satoshi name was just one person, but obviously nothing is done in a complete vacuum, so it makes sense that they would be reaching out to others for feedback. Looking back now, it might seem amazing that right when the white paper was shared, James Donald immediately wrote a response, and Hal Finney immediately started running the software. But they kind of cheated a little bit, and that Satoshi probably had already shared it with them beforehand. Another individual Satoshi reached out to in 2008, before the public knew about Bitcoin, was Dr. Adam Back. So why did Satoshi want input from Adam? Who is this guy? Born in 1970 in the great city of London, Adam has stated that even in his youth, he was always questioning the things around him, thinking adversarially, not just accepting truths until further investigated. When he discovered cryptography, he was drawn to the whole premise that something could be hidden, protected from a potential enemy. And he followed this passion to its fullest academic extent, getting a PhD in distributed systems from the University of Exeter. He's written a number of academic papers, done consulting work, and was an active member on a number of different mailing lists. I checked out his website, and there's a link to this strange dog website. I thought for a second that this was a joke or some secret code, but I think Adam is just a fan of this breed. You know, sometimes I wish I was insane. I mean, imagine how great it would be to have schizophrenia and just get lost on this website, trying to connect clues that Adam is Satoshi. Oh man, that would be so great, just to spend a week with no sleep, looking for hidden messages. Anyway, Adam's fascination with encryption and privacy led into the cypherpunk movement. For a lot of these older guys who were already in the tech space during the rise of the internet, I can only imagine how exciting that must have been. Adam was in a unique position to not only see the possibilities of the world becoming connected that way, but also the dangers. So he was a big participant on the cypherpunk mailing lists, where anonymous people could interact and share ideas about how technology could be used, not for things like TikTok, but for privacy. And on this mailing list, under his own name, Adam was one of its most active users. So it makes sense Satoshi might reach out to him, or that Adam would use this very same forum to adopt a new name, Satoshi, and share his Bitcoin invention. Adam's story is that despite being interested in digital money and being contacted directly by Satoshi, he ignored Bitcoin. He stayed off the forums during the years that Satoshi was active. And then, once Satoshi was gone, he creates an account and is like, "Hey guys, my name's Adam. I'm new here." Just incredibly sketchy and incredibly hard to believe. Adam has never shared the emails he supposedly received from Satoshi, citing that Satoshi never said if they were comfortable with them being public. Very convenient excuse, but in his defense, Adam's career has been spent advocating privacy, so really can't be too surprised by that. But he has shared a little of what that exchange was like. In an interview with Cointelegraph, Adam reveals that after Satoshi contacted him, he tried to point them in the direction of other people who had tried similar things. Besides Chom's most famous DigiCash, B-Money, developed by Wei, and BitGold, developed by Sabo, there are many other obscure papers on this subject, and I sent Satoshi references to a couple of them related to proof of work in 2008. I mentioned a few in my 2002 paper about Hashcash, and some earlier proof of work papers like Cynthia Dwork and Moni Naor's, and even earlier related papers. We can't forget that there was also Hal Finney's reusable proof of work, or RPOW, that predates Bitcoin from 2004. There were also anonymous people looking to create virtual money like Magic Money from Product Cipher, and other privacy tools like Heinrich Hoster's PGP Stealth. So, in attempting to deflect the question away, Adam inadvertently reveals that he's practically a walking encyclopedia for digital money and its history. With his academic and professional background, it's no wonder people have looked into Adam as actually being Satoshi. And we need to point out the most obvious. Satoshi wrote in British English spelling, used British phrases like bloody hard, people living in flats, not apartments. Adam is from London. Adam is also fond of the double space after sentences. Now, obviously, a whole generation grew up doing a double space after sentences. And newsflash, a lot of people have a British background. But in Bitcoin code, Satoshi also included a newspaper headline from a London newspaper as an Easter egg. Charles Hoskinson, one of the co-founders of Ethereum, agrees that these coincidences make Adam the most obvious and therefore the most logical choice. He's the right place, right time, right age, right skill set. You know, if you look at the design of Bitcoin, the types of decisions like the use of Forth, the scripting language, it was pretty common in English and European pedagogy in the 1980s and 90s. It's like an example language for a stack-based assembly, and like little stuff like that, little quirks like that. Also, he created Hashcash, which is the predecessor of proof of work. He's kind of got a chip on his shoulder that Microsoft never did anything with it. That's another good point. Satoshi wrote Bitcoin on a Windows computer, which was a little odd for an open source project, but Adam worked at Microsoft. And I may have portrayed Adam as this intellectual. I mean, look at him wearing glasses. But there's a whole other side to him that is a little naughty, a little rebellious. Debate over whether encryption should be legal or illegal became a major issue in the 90s. And Adam Back was one of those activists passively and directly pushing back on government efforts to control the common man from using encryption. Adam wrote short pieces of code that some were comparing to a weapon, and then started selling t-shirts with this printed on it. I think some crazy people even tattooed it on their body. Adam was sticking it to the man and challenging them to try to enforce a law that these numbers were illegal. In the end, the people won. And so we have Adam and those other activists to thank for preventing a government monopoly on encryption. And stuff like this shirt is clear evidence that Adam was willing to get his hands a little dirty and go into this gray area of, is this legal or is this not? Bitcoin is right in that same category. Present-day Adam spends his time working on Bitcoin at his company Blockstream, promoting Bitcoin on social media, and providing guidance and consulting work to the interesting Bitcoin experiment happening in El Salvador. When not flying around the world, Adam appears to have set up base in Malta, a beautiful island off the coast of Italy. Now, maybe he just enjoys nice weather, but perhaps a more likely reason is that these small island nations usually have a favorable tax law, perfect for someone with a lot of money, say 1 million Bitcoin. Adam consistently has denied that he is Satoshi, and if you look at the many interviews he's done in recent years, he always deflects and says things like, "It's better off no one knows who Satoshi is." So people looking to read between the lines, they feel like that's Adam saying he's Satoshi without really saying he's Satoshi. And I admit, he does appear a little coy. And for someone who shows almost no emotion, he's practically grinning when talking about it. Here's something to think about. Don't you think Adam likes that people think he's Satoshi? Wouldn't you? I mean, it's like if there was a rumor going around that you had a giant penis. Are you going to go around saying, no, and offer proof against that? No. You know, in interviews, you're going to say, hey, guys, listen, it's not important. Okay, it doesn't matter. So Adam acting a little weird means nothing to me. And when his partner at Blockstream, Samson Mao, is all giddy saying, is Adam Satoshi? I don't know. It doesn't mean anything. Other than that they both benefit from having that rumor be out there. Put on your critical thinking hat. If Satoshi took all these steps to hide their identity, if they never wanted fame, if they were worried about government agencies, why is Adam going on Reddit posting goofy things like, hey, apparently I was the first person Satoshi ever contacted. Pretty crazy, right? I mean, did he care about privacy and then get brain damage in 2012? One of the other individuals Satoshi reached out to pre-Bitcoin release was Wei Dai. Amazingly, and lucky for us, Wei Dai actually shared these messages. I mean, there's not much conversation there, but one sentence caught my eye. Satoshi asks Wei Dai how to best put a citation for their B-money system. Said Adam Back actually told them about this B-money. I don't get why, if Adam was Satoshi, he would be asking in a private message what year B-money came out, when Adam practically lived on the cypherpunk mailing list. Wei Dai is not a household name, but for someone like Adam, he would absolutely be familiar with him. And Wei Dai has been cited many times since B-money came out in 1998. If Adam was trying to stay in character or create some deniability, why do it in a private message and waste this guy's time? Yeah, he could be acting dumb and saying the wrong year, but it's just less likely to me when it's in a direct message. It furthers the idea that Satoshi was an outsider to the cypherpunks, not someone who was following the community. Maybe someone younger. Another glaring omission, Satoshi didn't seem to be aware of Nick Szabo. Again, Nick is not someone the general public would know about, especially before Bitcoin, but Adam would have to be familiar with his work. The piece of evidence that most needs explanation is Adam being quiet during the years that Satoshi was active and posting. I can't deny that a scenario of Adam creating Bitcoin, adopting the Satoshi name for a few years, then returning in 2013 is a compelling narrative, but there is another possibility, perhaps a more embarrassing one. That after being shown Bitcoin before anyone else on Earth, he chose to ignore it. He sent Satoshi a long list of other schemes that had come before and dismissed Bitcoin as just one more. When Hal Finney wrote his famous post, Bitcoin and Me, He makes a comment how other cryptographic graybeards did not take Bitcoin serious at first, but he, Hal being the amazing man he was more hopeful and took Satoshi seriously. I had always assumed he was speaking abstractly, not really talking about a specific person, but how many people did Satoshi share Bitcoin with? How long is the list of cypherpunks that Satoshi reached out to? He's got to be talking about Adam. And as painful as it might be, in 2013, Adam would have to eventually admit Bitcoin is for real and get involved years late to the party. In this interview with John Vallis, Adam was forced to explain why he didn't get involved with Bitcoin at the beginning. And it's 2 hours in. I think Adam was a little loosened up at this point, and he actually gave a pretty specific answer with two reasons. One, that the network size and therefore security was not sufficient. And two, that Bitcoin was not fungible, was not private. Of course, he could be making up an excuse, but those are pretty legitimate criticisms that would make Bitcoin unattractive at the beginning. He also adds at the end, and then there was an earlier protocol which was potentially unusable in a decentralized way, which is a 1999 paper called Auditable Anonymous Electronic Cash that didn't have a private key. It kind of had a public broadcast or place where spent coins were stored and some zero-knowledge proofs. And so I thought, well, that protocol, which was quite an interesting and unique protocol, could have been used by Bitcoin. And that would have had more privacy, a lot more privacy. But so that was my thought. Well, why didn't Bitcoin, should have used that? But in fairness, the protocol was kind of esoteric. Even 10 years after the fact, Adam has to mention some obscure paper that he thinks could have done Bitcoin better. Mentioning that Bitcoin could have been done better does show his motivations with his company Blockstream, but it doesn't indicate that he was the one who wrote the Bitcoin white paper. Bitcoin accomplishes some amazing things, but there are some downsides to having the entire world see the same ledger. For a privacy-focused individual like Adam, Bitcoin does not have a good base layer. And for the second point he made, he wasn't wrong about security either. At the beginning, when it was just Hal and Satoshi mining on their computers, all it would have taken is a handful of attackers to stall the network. For someone who's always thinking adversarially, how could you be confident that a group of baddies wouldn't get together and attack the network? It's amazing that throughout Bitcoin's life, the bad guys have never outnumbered the good guys. It's part of the system's design that is just so interesting to think about. And maybe now we can appreciate that the game theory works, but who could have predicted with confidence it would make it to the size of today? When Bitcoin had low prices, the network security was objectively worse. When these hedge fund guys today say buying Bitcoin at $40,000 is a better bet than at $400, they're not joking. There's an understanding there that as the network grows in size, it actually does become a safer bet. I say all that to make the point that Adam's logic and explanation makes complete sense. While Adam was interested in digital money, he was also uniquely qualified to not think Bitcoin could succeed. He had seen so many projects come and go. It was probably hard to go all in on another scheme claiming revolution. It wasn't until the network grew in size, in mining power, in price, that Adam realized Bitcoin was for real. And he had to jump in late with his company Blockstream to try and capture some value that he couldn't at the beginning. I suspect that's also where Adam's need to show off Hashcash comes from. It's not enough that Satoshi cited it in the white paper. Adam has to let you know on his Twitter, and he was editing Wikipedia in 2012, not to promote Bitcoin, but to make sure people knew Hashcash was what Satoshi used. If you have to ask, I don't think Adam is Satoshi, but I think he was an important cypherpunk. I think he wants you to know about Hashcash, and I think he is trying to make Bitcoin better. If you disagree, that's okay. Any arguing about Bitcoin is unironically good for it. There is no marketing budget. Don't let Twitter accounts bully you into becoming jaded or afraid to share your opinion. Be optimistic. Be like Hal. Don't ever become so pessimistic that you dismiss people and ideas without first giving them an honest look. What's the worst that could happen?